Hey, it's Keith,
And Mike.
and we're Atlas Genius. We're hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
The tour is like right around the corner.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, that week before a tour kicks off.
Well, the last few days are always kind of, are we allowed to swear?
Anything you want.
Kind of a shit show. I mean, because the thing about touring is it's like we had rehearsals for a couple of days just getting ready for this, and then you're packing for like the next month. You're living out of a suitcase. So it's
Right.
just, it's not crazy, but it gets pretty busy, you know. It's a little stressful.
Yeah. What about for you? Is anything different for you?
No, it's exactly the same. We're both doing the same thing. Just running around like crazy. Trying to get the show ready and
Just getting like your washing done and like making sure you've got enough socks and jocks, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Now, let's talk a little bit about inanimate objects. You guys are still touring the record. The record's actually still pretty fresh. But this record took a little longer than your previous work. What is it about this record that took a little long? Was it the writing? Was it the recording?
I think that when you don't have the pressure of like a solid timeline, you can just end up taking a long time. You know, like it's because the first album we knew that we had to start touring at a certain date,
Right.
and then so because the shows were booked, like we only had that time to do the album, and then with the second one, we finished touring the first album when we toured for like a year and a half, and then we're like, oh, let's take some time on this one, and I don't know, like I don't think that's always a good thing because you can just take as long as you want it, and we took as long as we wanted.
Now, when you take long like that on a record, how are you able to still have the fans involved when you're so focused on in the studio?
Well, I think that was probably the hardest thing about it was feeling that disconnect from, because we didn't play any live shows for like a year and a half, and I wouldn't choose to do that again. I think it's much healthier as a band to stay in touch with, play shows and tour for a month, go in the studio for a few months and alternate like that when you're creating music. So, but it was the first. Second album we've ever done, and you only ever do it once. So like we've learned from that, like I would have done the process. I would have changed the process a little, but that's the third album.
Yeah. Now with this record also, you guys did it more here in LA, as opposed to back at home. Back at home, everything's a little more calm, a little more quiet, as opposed to here. There's always something going on, whether it's a show that's always going on, or some kind of event. So how are you guys able to focus when you're out here in LA with so much going on?
Well, I think that was probably part of the initial struggle, is that we had a real routine doing the first album because it was our studio, it was in Australia, and like you say, it was a quieter part of the world, and so we didn't have those constant distractions of shows to go to and all that kind of stuff. And
it was like 6 months just trying to like adjusting to living in LA full time and sort of being away from that home environment. But sort of added to the process.
And I think like now, the good thing now is like we've acclimatized to Los Angeles, and I think that like this we've been working on the third album over the last 3-4 months, and it feels good because like we're used to being here. We've got people that we like working with. We have certain producers and engineers that we work with, and people we like to collaborate with. And so we didn't have that the first time we came over here, So it's a different. It'll be a very different process. Like I'm feeling really excited about like what we have for this new album, and we haven't even really seriously like said, hey, we're working on a third album. It's just we've just been doing it. Which I think that organic way is kind of more akin to like the way the first album happened. The first album was just a labor of love that we were just working on. Right. And the first half of the album was done, and then we signed to a label, and then it all started. So. It feels a little bit more like that, a bit more organic, and I like that process.
Now, with the first album, you guys had a producer. With this album, it looks like you guys self-produced it, right?
No, we produced the first one ourselves. There were 4 of us in the band at that point. We had a keyboard player as well, so we all collaborated, but like it was solely produced by us.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Gotcha. To the point where like a lot of the a certain 3 or 4 of the songs on the album were mixed by us as well. So it was a very DIY process.
And is this something that you guys might consider for everything that you guys are doing as Atlas Genius? Like, do you guys prefer that hands-on and everything?
I think that as an artist, you have a vision, and I think and it's wise to incorporate other people's ideas, but also to stay strong in your vision, because I think that if you start to let too many people in, then you end up with just something that becomes nothing.
Right.
And whereas if you have a strong idea, which we generally do when we're working on music, then if you are able to realize that, chances are it's going to probably be a better work of art, I think, than if you've got... It's just like painting, I guess. Like very rarely does somebody let 10 other people have a brush stroke on a painting, so because it's not their vision.
Now, when a producer does come into, to the project, he kind of does things that you guys don't see at the time, like whether he'll tell you to try something different or take something out. So how do you guys really challenge yourselves when you guys are, it's technically not fresh ears listening to the material?
Well, I mean, that's... So having said that, like, the first album was entirely us back in Australia. The second album we came over here and we collaborated with a Danish friend of ours, which was a great process. And this time around, there's a few different people that we're collaborating with. So like some songs are just purely me on my own. Some songs are like Mike and I, and other times we'll bring either friends, like guys who are in the band, or other producers or musicians around town. And so each song that's how you get like a different perspective. You just like changing it up,
right,
depending on the song and the feel that you're going for.
And as far as changing it up, was there a specific song that took the most reconstruction before it was actually the song that we hear on the record?
Yeah, I think Balladino.
Balladino and Levitate had a few different versions.
Yeah.
That the song which you wouldn't think would have
Such
the
a
most
simple
and
song.
longest production was that was a track.
Some of the simplest songs where they're really a delicate thing, and the trick is to save, like to hold on to the beauty of the simplicity of an idea, and make it a little better, like produce it right, but not crush it. They're the hardest ones, I think, when it's a really delicate song, and like Levitate was definitely a song like that. And Balladino was just like that was also a challenging one for a bunch of reasons, but I'm happy with the end result.
I feel like Balladino, which is the single right now, it wasn't just challenging for you guys, it was challenging for the director for the video, right? It took quite some time to actually create it.
As much as I want to complain about how long that song took us, I think that the video, I mean, really all up probably was close to a year because it's stop motion if you haven't seen it, and that whole every frame is a different setup,
right,
and the amount of work that guy did is incredible, and it's a work of art. It's such a beautiful thing, and it stands up to like all the really good stop motion stuff that I've seen that huge production houses do with, say, team of like 20 people or 100 people. So we're pretty proud of what he was able to do.
Now, due to the fact that it took so long, is it safe to say that might have been the first single of this record?
No, single choice is always a strange one, because as a band you have songs that you're particularly attached to, and then of course you have other you involve, we have management, we have a record label, we have different people that all have their opinion, and we respect all their opinions, and so it's a hard one where you might be really married to a song and then someone else is like, yeah, but what about this song? And so you kind of try and see it from their point of view. Balladino was always in the mix. Like initially at one point it was like maybe it's the first single, then we thought maybe it's a little slow for a first single. And without a crystal ball you just don't know what the right choice is until you try it.
Previous to this tour that you guys are about to embark, you guys were on tour with Skylar Gray.
Yeah.
She's another awesome musician and a great writer. Did that time that you guys spent together on tour, did that lead to potential to any opportunities to work together, whether it's collaborating on her music, on your music, or anything else?
Yeah, we've already started collaborating as a result. I mean, it was a really nice tour because we didn't know each other at all. Like we knew of Skylar, she knew of us. It seemed like an interesting package to put a tour like that together, but because it wasn't just a bunch of indie bands, it was like Skylar, who's it's a very different sort of lane that she's in, I guess. But we all became BFFs. That tour was a beautiful tour, in that we had a great time on it, and afterwards we've got these lasting friendships that resulted. And I've already thrown a couple of song ideas her way that she's helped me with, and vice versa. So, and at some point we'll go out and visit her she's out in Park City in Utah. So the plan is to go out there at some point and hang out with her. So
that'll be awesome. Now you guys are getting ready to embark on your tour. You guys have a couple dates with Panic and Weezer before the tour.
Yeah.
But I was just hanging out with Bare Hands maybe a couple weeks ago, and like they're excited to hang out with you guys.
They're a band that we've been fans of for 5 years. Like before.
2012.
Yeah, like really.
Yeah.
It might have even been 11. I feel like.
First heard that, I think Crime Pace was the first single we heard of theirs. It's such a great track.
And it was this mixture of a lot of things that we liked, but it sounded really fresh because I remember it had a little bit of that eclectic MGMT nature about the production, but it was also very different and rockier, and they've continued to just put out great stuff. So we've never toured with them, so I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. And what can we expect from you guys on this tour? You guys now have 2 records, so you can have a crazy set list.
That's actually part of. We had fun in the rehearsal studios the last couple of days, just bringing back a couple of the old songs, because there's that tendency. You have a new album, and all you want to do is just play the new songs, you know. And we did that last year. We played a lot of the new stuff, and then we thought, there's a couple of songs that we unceremoniously cut from the set that maybe we should go back, and so we brought back a couple which we're going to play tonight, which is, it's nice, like you have a new appreciation, because it's so the time and the distance we have from those songs is now, it's like 3 or 4 years since we did them, so we can almost appreciate them as though that was someone else's songs.
So you guys will be doing covers of the original Atlas Genius record.
We're going to be covering Atlas Genius songs.
That's how it feels. That's how it feels. Yeah.
It does actually, because the funniest thing is forgetting. Like you go to play something, like what was the guitar part in that? Like I know I played this, but and having to go through and like listen to the album and work out what you did.
Well, see, that's the best part, because when you guys perform it, we'll get the real deal. Like if you mess up, you mess up. It's it's live.
Well, it's a tightrope, isn't it? Every time you play live, like who knows what could go wrong.